All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there, just like you right there, just like me right here. Okay, Journey fans, Crossing Rubicon. All right, Perfect Storm. If you like the group, The Storm, remember them? Greg Raleigh, Kevin Chalfant. Holy crap, Batman. Um, Perfect Storm. See how that ties in? This is just super awesome melodic rock, great guitar solos, great hooks, great songwriting, great singing. And yeah, from start to finish, this is very interesting. And I would definitely give it a listen if you're a Journey fan. Even if you're not a Journey fan, I think you'll like it. So, Crossing Rubicon. Speaking of Journey, what happened to Randy Jackson? Randy's out there doing interviews. He did one with a guitar magazine. They talked about how difficult it was to make the new album in seclusion, where, you're mailing in your parts, right? Because of the thing and the thing demic. By the way, one of my theories about Randy Jackson is he didn't want to do the thing, didn't want to do it. And I can't confirm any of this stuff, but from what I understand, he was anti-thing, and he didn't want to go to Walgreens, and he was very skeptical. He kind of knows the Tuskegee experiments and so forth. So I think he's a smart guy in that regard. I'm not sure how well that went over with some of his peers and the people who primarily know him from American Idol. But back in 1986 and 87, Randy was seen wearing these really bright spandex looking pants and stuff. And he was such a really cool addition to Journey. You had the stoic bass player, and then you get Randy Jackson, and Randy Jackson is just crazy all over the map, playing like Stanley Clark, just like, what's going on with Steve Perry? Hey, Steve Perry. This was Steve's idea. Kudos to Steve Perry for hiring a rhythm section, right? Sorry, Steve Smith. Steve Smith, an amazing drummer, but Steve Perry, he wanted to go a little Motown. He wanted to go a little R&B, a little Stax music. And yeah, definitely Raised on Radio. He wanted to ditch the one-word titles for albums. He went against Herbie. I want to say Herbie Hancock, but it's Herbie Herbert, right? He probably wanted to go with Herbie. He would have had Herbie Hancock play on the album, right? Little rocket going on in the middle would have been kind of cool. But Randy Jackson, a beast, just one of the better bass players. And yes, he shows up on the Freedom album, and that bottom end is himself and Narada Michael Walden. A little funkiness to the action, although I think this is pretty much a straight up rock album with the occasional nod to albums like Raised on Radio, but more like Frontiers, and a little bit of, escape in there as well, if you're going to use reference points. I mean, Jonathan Cain said, look, we're not going to be a different band. A lot of people were complaining, but some of the songs kind of had a vibe from before, which I'm thinking, and the problem with that is, I mean, if you're going to, plagiarize yourselves, and you're that actual band plagiarizing yourselves, I don't see why that's a big problem. Some people may say, well, it's a lack of creativity. Led Zeppelin never sounded like Led Zeppelin after their first album. They kept reinventing themselves, and they did a little bit on each album, sound a bit different. But I remember they got into like keyboards sort of late in the game, but they were still Led Zeppelin. They were still doing that Zepp thing. And in this case, I think the change was good for Journey, right? To kind of just go back to their roots. I mean, Eclipse, if you go listen to that, that doesn't really sound like any of the older stuff. And the critics liked that. The critics always like it when the band deviates from what the people want to hear. And it's kind of like what society is all about. The critics will love it when you go against what, the popular majority want and like. In any event, this whole not in Journey right now thing is still a bit of a mystery. I've heard a couple of things. I don't know if it's true. Number one, Randy didn't want to do the thing and decided not to go out on the road. Number two, he had a back problem and he had to get surgery and he had to recover from that. That I think I've read somewhere, so it might be more than just a theory. But, you know, like Steve Perry, hey, Randy, when you coming back to the band? You know, the guys probably gave him an ultimatum. Hey, if you don't come back, we're going to replace you with Todd Jensen or Marco Mendoza, actually. And so they replaced him with Marco Mendoza, who was then replaced by Todd Jensen. And now you've got Journeyline instead of Hardline, because you got, what, 3 guys from Hardline. Johnny Gioeli, who could also be, no, I don't know if he could sing for Journey, but, you know, if Journey wanted to open up with like a set of Bon Jovi music prior and get Johnny G to come out there with the rest of the guys and do like a Hardline, they could do a Hardline reunion as well and play a few Hardline tracks. That would be kind of cool. Although they do have Toto, right, opening up, so they really don't need to do anything else. That's a really long set of music anyway, so I don't think you really need to add to it. But the mystery is still out there. The mystery, you know, people aren't asking the question. So he does this interview and nobody says, hey, Randy, so why aren't you out on tour with these guys right now? And yes, one of my theories, probably the bad back thing or the idea that he didn't want to cope with all of the regulations and rules and protocols, as I used to call them. It's funny how the rock media doesn't talk at all about this stuff anymore. They don't. And the rock stars aren't out there urging you to get number 3 or number 4 or number 5 in the series. Nah, they're not doing that anymore. Gee, I wonder why that is. It's just really strange how that just kind of disappeared. There were no apologies, though. Nobody said they were sorry for berating people who had a different viewpoint on it. I'd like an apology. There were people in the rock media who said that I was calling people names and it wasn't justifiable. Oh, okay. Calling people names, just in general, using terms like moron, all right? That's kind of a normal word to use. I could use stronger words. I could be like Tommy Lee, right? And use, you know, could use 4-letter words as the main group of words that I stick to all the time, but I don't. You know, moron I think was appropriate. So in any event, folks, I'm just rambling here, wondering what really happened in the Randy Jackson situation. There are a number of theories. There's the Road Warrior theory that he didn't want to be on the road. He liked recording. It was a cool idea when Neal Schon approached him, but then the reality of it set in. I know he just lost a lot of weight, looks like a completely different guy. I think he's really into trying to be healthy and stay healthy. So he might have some underlying health issues he was dealing with, and that might have made it a little more difficult to be on the road. But that would have been a really great band. I mean, Narada Michael Walden also had to bow out because of health issues. And hence we have Dean Castronovo, who can sing and dance and drum and he just does everything, right? He is, I mean, he's great. So I'm happy for him that he get back in the band. But yeah, this mystery is still out there. And I did ask around, by the way. I did ask some people, and they were like, yeah, your guess is as good as mine. And these were people kind of close to the situation. So in any event, people, that's a video. I don't know. It's good that Randy is on this record, but it would have been cool to see him out there on the road. And if he could have just raided that old wardrobe of his just one time, have everybody do the retro 80s thing out on stage. I mean, you may need hair extensions for some of those guys, but definitely a cool thing to see. And this is a cool thing to listen to right here, Crossing Rubicon, courtesy of Frontiers Music. And no, they don't pay me. They just put out a lot of music. And every so often, I end up owning a CD. And this year it's been, I don't know, like 20 times now. So I bought a lot of music this year. And my top 20 year end is going to be a lot of fun. It's already September, so I got to start thinking about my list. Who knows what'll be on that list? Right now, I know my number 1, and I've told y'all what it is. Will Journey make the list? Freedom? I don't know, maybe, but you'll have to tune in at the end of the year to find out. And anyway, folks, thanks for supporting me and this channel and watching these videos. It's much appreciated, and I will see you all soon.